Yo, you sexy thing. Hello. Right, on the opening presentation at INET, one of the first lines was, can Europe do a United States, as in an Alexander Hamilton, and take all the debts of the states, and one central body accepts them and thereby unites all the states by that means? Do you get that? It's a tricky one, isn't it? Because it was the United States, it was new, it had wondrous possibilities, and basically anybody with a brain would lend to them as long as this sort of thing was in place, that there was an arranged authority that would be able to pay the debts back. You see that light travelling across there like that? Anyway. Right, can Europe do that? Well, no, because Europe isn't new, it hasn't got wide open vistas to grow into. It is an ageing, dying place, unless it gets some new sparky ideas. But there's no sign of them yet. Right, let's move on to Europe. This is just about Europe. This figure 1 is unit labour costs in selected EU nations. Now these are all euro users, and it goes back to roughly the start of the euro, and all of these charts will have that same sort of time scale. What we have here are unit labour costs levelled out at 100 in the year 2000, and you can see Germany, the black one, is well low. Their unit labour costs are very little higher than they were what is now 12 years ago, where all the other countries, France, Italy, Spain, Greece and Portugal, are a lot higher with their unit labour costs. So you say, well, they've been jolly naughty having their unit labour costs up there. But give it another think and think, well, is Germany naughty for having its unit labour costs down there? We say, well, how do we think about this? And then you've got to decide how to think about this. Is it good to have low unit labour costs, low wages? Germany has said we'll have low wages as long as we can have almost guaranteed jobs. That's what they've got. The other countries had higher wages. If in doubt, if a company runs into trouble, they put their prices up. They put their prices up and everyone puts their wages up. And to a certain extent it works. But not long term. Right, let's move into this and see if it makes sense. As you can see, same type of chart, so it's from the same link. Real exports of selected EU nations, and with Germany keeping its labour costs low and helping its industries, its real exports have flown much higher than everybody else's. Interesting. Have a look at, well, you can see all the rest again just about linked together. There is Germany apart and all the rest are together. But these are real exports, and have a look in 2008 and you've got gold, red and a kind of purpley one which are sandwiched in the middle, but they're doing better than the two others. So the gold, red and purpley are Greece, Spain and Portugal, were actually pumping the exports more than the other two, which below them were Italy and France. And that is where the problem lies. We now know the problems lie in Spain, Greece and Portugal. But back then you could say, well, come on France and Italy, let's get your real exports pumping, because that seems to be what everybody wants. And again, we can throw in the, why do we want to do all this exporting? And it's not, fly on forehead, it's not immediately obvious. You've really got to think about it. Two more charts, obviously same source. Top one, figure 4, productivity. Now, whatever the hell that is. It's very hard to know what productivity is, but presumably they've measured it the same for everybody and zeroed it at 100 at the beginning again. And you can see productivity in Greece. The gold one, the yellow one right at the top, was way above everybody else. Absolutely wonderful productivity coming out of Greece for just about the whole of the period. They only dropped. No, they've never dropped below anybody. They're always been on the top. Right. Productivity in Germany was just behind Greece, but obviously the main problem in this chart is this sludgy green one at the bottom, and sludgy green is Italy. Italy is the problem, as it was in the last one, which was real exports. Italian exports, along with French exports, have been losing market share. Now we see that they don't have productivity either. And we see in the one below, the total labour costs, they're third from the top in total labour costs in Italy. So absolutely no productivity increases, but a lot of total labour cost increases. In fact, up by a third. And Spain at the top of that. Total labour costs over the period up 50% plus. Germany, of course, at the bottom. Labour costs kept down. But we can say that all the others above Germany, and they're 30% more expensive with their labour costs over that period. And the productivity above isn't 30% more in any of them. Right. These new updated figures from the European Central Bank out yesterday. GDP, it was going along quite nicely. If you think 2%, which is basically blah, was quite nice. From the inception of the euro till the crash in 2008, it was between 0 and 4, averaging 2%, which is really very blah, but head above water for the Western nations, the Europeans in this case. Obviously the great crash down in the Great Recession, and then they clawed back to their average 2% thing again. But note, that's that horrible little turn down. That's the Europeans heading into the overall double dipper. Right. Government debt as a percentage of GDP. Now, going back to the Alexander Hamilton one and uniting everybody to for one debt instrument, the Euro bond or whatever it might be, an awful lot of debt would have to be piled in there, because we've got this whole Euro area government debt as a percentage of GDP for all the Euro using countries, and it was always wrapped around about 70%, which is only 10% shy of the Reinhardt-Rogoff 80% mark, which says that go above 80 and the chances are your GDP will start going blah minus, glug glug glug. You just really struggle when your debt government to GDP goes over 80%, which you can see since the Great Recession, it's done. It's gone from 67.5 to 87.5. Now, that's an awful lot of debt to be putting in one bundle and calling it something. Whatever it was to be called, it would have to be called something very special indeed to entice market people to come and buy it. Finish with this one. Unemployment from the inception of the euro came down from 10% to 7.5%. Great Recession, it went up to 10%. A bit like the United States. The United States has come down. And it was looking like the euro using area was going to start coming down as well. But then they did austerity and it stonked up another 1%, 10 to 11%. How are they going to get out of this? This is the great big question. That at the moment they have no idea what to do at all. We'll wait on the weekend and the new French president, who will have to slot in there somewhere, but it looks like there's going to be a bigger block anti-austerity than there is pro-austerity after the French presidential election. But then what will Germany say if they are overruled on austerity? Cooperation was the byword for the INET opening session. cooperation in countries, in groups of countries, and then in the world. One of the main groups of countries is this European thingy. And we'll just see over the next, whatever it is, amount of time, whether they can get cooperation on sorting whatever this is out. If they can't do it within Europe, there is probably no chance that the world will cooperate on anything. Because individually you've got to get your own shit together first. When you get your own shit together, then you kind of are in a position to be prepared to bargain and give to other countries. You only give when you think you're ahead of the game. And so many of these countries now don't feel that they're ahead of the game, so there won't be cooperation because there won't be giving. Everybody thinks that they need to take more to keep themselves up there. And that is not a recipe for cooperation. Goodbye.